March 17th here in Seoul, and I'm Peunzi. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the Trump administration's tariff plans. After U.S. President Donald Trump recently vowed to implement reciprocal tariffs on all trading partners starting April, the country's top diplomat says Washington could engage in bilateral agreements with countries after resetting a new baseline of fairness. This is also expected to significantly impact businesses in South Korea. President Yoon's political fate still hangs in the balance, as the Constitutional Court has yet to make a final ruling on whether or not to oust the country's leader. Eyes are now on whether the decision will be made later this week. A U.S. envoy who recently met with Russian President Vladimir Putin says Trump and Putin are expected to speak over the phone this week. This comes as Washington has been trying to broker a ceasefire to end the fighting in Ukraine that has dragged on for more than 3 years. The U.S. may start bilateral talks on new trade deals after imposing tariffs on major partners, including South Korea. Seoul's trade minister, who wrapped up his trip to Washington, says the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs on the country are expected to take place starting April as planned. Our Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
The United States is considering forging new trade agreements, which could also impact free trade agreement partners like South Korea. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in a CBS interview on Sunday local time, said that the U.S. could potentially engage in bilateral agreements with countries after resetting a new baseline of fairness and reciprocity. He emphasized that bilateral negotiations would not begin until reciprocal tariffs were fully implemented on countries like Canada, Mexico, and most of the EU, suggesting the tariffs could serve as a bargaining tool. He also stated that the reciprocal tariffs are not targeted towards specific nations but apply to all countries. South Korea's Trade Minister Chung In-kyo, who visited Washington to request an exemption from the tariffs, said on his return that the reciprocal tariffs on South Korea are likely to take effect on April 2nd, as President Donald Trump previously announced.
The goal of reducing the trade deficit through reciprocal tariffs has not changed. Since President Trump directly oversees these tariffs, it's highly likely that his policies will be carried out as planned.
While there were no discussions on specific items like automobiles or beef, he said that the U.S. highlighted how South Korea's sanitary policies and technical regulations have made it difficult for the U.S. to access the Korean market. Chung's trip to the U.S. to meet with his counterpart follows Trump's accusation earlier this month that South Korea imposes tariffs 4 times higher than those of the U.S., a claim that Korea disputed. South Korea's effective tariff rate on U.S. imports stands at 0.79% as of 2024, in line with the two countries' FTA, a sharp drop from the 2.48% in 2015. While it is unclear whether South Korea's FTA with the United States will be revised or replaced by a completely new deal, given that it was already revised during Trump's first term, it is highly likely that further adjustments will be considered in response to the changing trade dynamics. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
With President Yoon's impeachment case stretching beyond 3 months, longer than the case for previous leaders, public and political tension is growing by the day, with tens of thousands rallying for and against Yoon's removal over the weekend. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
The mood is restless as the nation awaits the Constitutional Court's ruling on President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment following his December 3rd martial law last year. With no indication of when the 8-member bench will issue its verdict, which was widely expected last Friday, the court's deliberation period has stretched beyond 2 weeks, longer than it took for the impeachment trials of former Presidents Park Geun-hye and Roh Moo-hyun. As the court typically announces the ruling schedule at least 2 days in advance, the earliest date would be later this week, most likely on Friday. In any case, it's highly probable that the bench will deliver the ruling before April 18th, when 2 justices retire. As Judgment Day draws closer, police estimate 44,000 protesters gathered in Gwanghwamun Square over the weekend, calling for Yoon's impeachment, while some 60,000 rallied against it, as public opinion remains deeply divided. To minimize the turmoil expected after the ruling, political leaders are being urged to send a clear message that they will accept the court's verdict no matter what. The ruling People Power Party leadership says Sunday they have already expressed their commitment to accepting the court's ruling multiple times and emphasised this remains the party's official stance.
Whether it is a joint press conference between ruling and opposition party leaders or a joint statement, we will issue a message of acceptance in some form.
Democratic Party leader Lee Jae-myung has also expressed his willingness to accept the ruling during a YouTube broadcast, while floor leader Park Chan-dae said respecting the court's decision is a given. Still, both sides of the political spectrum are stepping up pressure on the judicial bench. Over the weekend, some ruling party lawmakers continue to protest against impeachment, holding marathon demonstrations outside the Constitutional Court for the sixth straight day. Meanwhile, opposition lawmakers staged an 8.7-mile march from the National Assembly to Gwanghwamun Square, urging Yoon's removal. As for the president, Yoon has remained silent and has not issued public messages while the court deliberates on his fate. His lawyer has previously said the president would accept the court's decision. A presidential official told local media the leader remains at his residence and is calmly waiting for the verdict. Yeosu, Arirang News.
Now, as we just heard in the previous report, South Korea's Constitutional Court is expected to soon rule on whether to approve or reject the National Assembly's motion to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol. For more on this, we're joined by attorney An Jun-sung this morning. Mr. An, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So why is it taking longer than expected for the Constitutional Court to make its final ruling on President Yoon?
I think there are two main reasons for such a delay. First of all, the President Yoon's active participation throughout the impeachment trial process, which has significantly slowed things down. And second, several concurrent impeachment trials, such as the one against Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, have prevented from the Korean Constitutional Court from focusing on President Yoon's impeachment trial. So it's kind of taking longer than we expected.
Right, and some say there is a possibility that the court is taking more time to make a unanimous decision like they did in the past. So what's your take on this?
Yes, my answer to the question is yes and no. I generally agree to the idea of an unanimous decision and its legal significance. But I think that it is not about the decision which slowed things down there. Rather, I think that KCC has been working on the legal ground for their decision. So it actually takes more time and energy, effort to find for the justification rather than make decisions in some cases, right?
Right, and the big question is, when can we expect the court to make the final ruling? Could it be possibly later this week?
That's a very interesting question because we thought that was last Friday. So at this moment, we don't know what really happened, but at least we know that was hopefully before the April, things got really get hectic there. So and then otherwise, and also the KCC, I think that they will have at least 2 days of advance notice about the ruling day. So we'll wait and see. But I guess that guessing maybe within sometime this Friday or even earlier in this week.
Right, possibly sometime this Friday, like you said. And the court recently dismissed a majority, that's 8 out of 13 motions to impeach state officials. Could this affect the verdict on the president in any way?
That's a very interesting question because I thought about that question before already. But some people actually argue that the 100% dismissal rate means that there's about the most recent 8 cases. Out of 8 cases, all 8 cases had been dismissed. So some people argue that 100% dismissal rate would have some effect on President Yoon's impeachment trial. So it's a very interesting argument, but I disagree because actually we need to focus on the rationale on the 8 cases, not decision only, but also what the reason behind the ruling, right? So KCC consistently clarified that the National Assembly has not abused its impeachment power for all the cases. So that's actually the bad news for President Yoon because that President Yoon's defense team was making argument that one of the main argument is that the National Assembly have abused their power. So that's really against their arguments.
Right, I guess it's really hard to tell for now. And could you briefly explain to our viewers what happens after the ruling? Will President Yoon be immediately removed from office if the court rules against Yoon? And what happens if the court rules for the president?
Yes, so whatever decision the cases come to it, there will have an immediate effect. So if the court find that is ruling against President Yoon, and he will be immediately removed from his office. And then under the Korean Constitution, there will be 180-day window to re-elect a new president. So very short time for election process. Or otherwise, he will be immediately, he will immediately resume his official work after the ruling. So there's the immediate effect. So we have to wait and see what really happened on that day.
All right, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this morning. Mr. An, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
In other news, Washington says U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin will speak over the phone this week regarding a potential ceasefire deal with Ukraine. European leaders and military chiefs are also holding a series of meetings this week to discuss ways to secure post-war peace amid ceasefire agreement speculation. Our Lee Seung-jae has the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said recent negotiations with Russia to end the war with Ukraine are going well. He also expressed confidence that Russian President Vladimir Putin will agree to a ceasefire. According to U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff on Sunday, the two leaders are expected to hold phone talks this week. Witkoff met Putin in person in Moscow last week to further discuss a potential ceasefire deal that will finally put a halt to over 3 years of war. The envoy expressed optimism over the phone call, saying that the presidents are going to have a really good and positive discussion this week. He also voiced confidence that a deal would be reached in the coming weeks. Witkoff explained that Washington is also in communication with Kyiv, adding that while the situation is complicated, the gap between the two sides is narrowing. U.S. negotiators are set to meet with counterparts from both Ukraine and Russia during the coming week to further engage in ceasefire talks. Meanwhile, the European Union is set to discuss measures to provide additional weapons to Ukraine worth over $43 billion during its foreign ministers' meeting and a leaders' summit. On Thursday, the military chiefs from countries participating in the Coalition of the Willing will meet in the UK to discuss post-war peacekeeping. While plans for deploying peacekeeping troops to key locations and training Ukrainian forces are being discussed, the process is expected to face several hurdles, as many countries are reluctant to send troops. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Palestinian militant group Hamas has said it will only release an American, Israeli, and the bodies of 4 hostages if Israel implements the ceasefire agreement. According to the Associated Press, citing a senior Hamas official on Sunday, the militant group believes that their offer is an exceptional deal aimed at getting the truce back on track. The official added that long-delayed talks over the second phase of the ceasefire need to begin on the day of the release and should last no longer than 50 days. Hamas also called on Israel to stop barring the entry of humanitarian aid and withdraw from the Rafah crossing. Now, the southern city of Yeosu is poised to welcome more than 7 cruise ships this year alone, as this new way of visiting South Korea grows in popularity, allowing visitors to have a look at the country's coastal cities. Our An Sung-jin has this report.
A 78,000-ton cruise ship with more than 2,000 passengers glides into port. This cruise has come from Japan and has arrived at its first stop in South Korea, the south coast city of Yeosu. Yeosu City Hall aims to provide a glimpse of Korean culture through such traditional performances and show unique aspects of the city as it looks to brand itself as a new cruise destination. As soon as visitors finish their customs checks, they are greeted by Korean snacks, jewelry, and craft work. And for those looking to explore the city even further, a shuttle bus takes them around for free.
Every time we pulled into a port, like today here in South Korea, we were met with wonderful performances, and we found everyone to be very welcoming. We really appreciate the shuttles, and it really helps us to see and to navigate easily.
From must-visit places such as the Isunsin Plaza and its replica historical turtle ship, to the beauty of Odongdo Island or the ocean cable car, the city has plenty for tourists to see and do. After the excitement of Yeosu City, these passengers will head to their next stop in Korea.
Well, we're pretty old hats at this, so we've been doing it this is probably our 12th cruise. Oh, just enjoying this area, right? We really don't know much about, was it Yeosu? Yeosu? Yeah, I don't really know much about that, but we're looking forward to Jeju tomorrow.
To accommodate all the tourists, the city provides administrative support, including temporary currency exchange and tourism information centers, as well as interpreters and tour guides.
With more cruise visitors, whether it's shopping or dining, the local economy of Yeosu is becoming more active. I think this will be an opportunity to improve its brand image and further promote itself, which is why we are putting a lot of attention and support into these MICE and cruise businesses.
The city is expecting to welcome another 6 cruises this year, carrying a total of 10,000 tourists as it looks to put itself on the map as a cruise destination. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Yeosu.
An independence fighter's dedication to ensuring Korea's freedom from Japanese colonial rule is brought to light on stage through the art of dance. Our correspondent Song Yoo-jin shows us how.
Jumps, turns, and twirls. Sometimes movement speaks louder than words. The Korean ballet Anjungun, A Dance in Heaven, marks its 10th anniversary this year. An is best remembered for pulling the trigger that changed history, assassinating Japan's first resident general of Korea, Hirobumi Ito. Ito is known to have orchestrated the 1905 Ulsa Treaty, stripping Korea of its diplomatic sovereignty. Director and scriptwriter Yang Young-eun says An's final words before his execution became the heartbeat of this production.
His words, "When I hear the sound of Korea's independence ringing from heaven, I will dance with joy," I realized he must have danced in moments of happiness. That's when I thought, why not tell his story through ballet, one of the purest forms of art?
The ballet traces An's life from his marriage to its beloved wife Kim Ha-ryo at 15 to his final moments at 31. Ballerinos Yoon Jeon-il and Lee Dong-tak play An, which they call an incredible honor.
I've read books, watched documentaries, and studied historical records, but I tried to embody his sacrifices and convictions. I kept asking myself, why did he make those choices? What must it have felt like to give up everything for a greater cause?
I wanted to ensure that An's story in our production flowed seamlessly, from the battles he fought, the sorrow of losing his fellow soldiers, his resilience, and how he ultimately carried out his mission.
An's love, agony, and unwavering determination are expressed entirely through motion. This is where the ballet took a bold turn, breaking tradition with creative choices, most notably a rare male cours de ballet sequence.
Typically, ballet prioritizes symmetry and uniformity, but we push beyond convention. More balanced shifts, expressive upper body movements, and dynamic movements. And our choreographer's Ba De-du beautifully conveys Han, Korea's deep sorrow and resilience.
A story once confined to history books now lives on through dance. Each step a heartbeat, each leap a cry for freedom. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Choi Ji-hee, and this is The World Now. Over the weekend, the United States launched airstrikes against the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen, aiming to deter attacks on international shipping routes in the Red Sea. The Houthis have vowed to retaliate. On Saturday local time, U.S. forces conducted airstrikes targeting sites in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. The operation aimed to destroy the Houthis' military infrastructure, specifically their missile and drone capabilities, to secure maritime navigation in the Red Sea. The Houthi-run health ministry reported that the strikes resulted in at least 31 deaths and injured over 100 individuals. The Houthis said in a televised statement on Sunday that the recent attacks were a blatant aggression and claimed to have launched ballistic missiles and drones targeting a U.S. aircraft carrier and vessels in retaliation without providing evidence. In the North Macedonian town of Kochani, a devastating fire engulfed a nightclub, resulting in the death of at least 59 people and injuries for more than 150 others. The fire broke out at the Pulse nightclub in Kochani at approximately 2:35 a.m. on Sunday local time during a concert by a local hip-hop duo. The fire was reportedly caused by pyrotechnic devices used during the performance, which set the club's ceiling alight. Reports also say the venue was overcrowded, leading to a stampede as people tried to escape through limited exits. Emergency responders faced challenges due to the intensity of the fire and the club's overcrowded conditions. Authorities detained 15 individuals in connection with the incident amid allegations that the nightclub was operating without proper licensing and had exceeded its capacity. The North Macedonian government declared a 7-day period of national mourning following the tragedy. The United States has been experiencing a significant surge in egg prices, with the average cost reaching $5.90 per dozen in February. While the price hike is primarily due to a severe avian influenza outbreak, some consumers are attempting to source cheaper eggs from neighboring countries, such as Mexico, where prices average under $2 per dozen. However, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has reported a 36% increase in egg smuggling incidents this fiscal year. Meanwhile, the U.S. has turned to several European countries, including Denmark, for egg imports to curb soaring prices. Disney's live-action movie Snow White premiered in Los Angeles on Saturday local time with a notably subdued event. The premiere featured limited media presence with interviews conducted primarily by Disney-affiliated personnel. The film has been surrounded by controversies, including criticism over the casting of Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, as Snow White, and debates regarding the portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs. Also, the differing political views between Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot as the evil queen have fueled further discussions. The film is scheduled for worldwide theatrical release on March 21st.
It feels like winter made its comeback this morning. And with the wind chill, it feels even colder. Meanwhile, the snow just keeps piling up in the mountains of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-Pukto provinces. Until this afternoon, they could get up to 15 centimeters of snowfall. And heavy snow alerts remain in place for those regions, while the wind is stronger along the coast with wind advisories. If you're near the shore, stay safe. The rest of the country will be under bright skies, but afternoon highs remain in the single figures in most parts. Seoul gets up to 6 degrees, Daegu, Gyeongju at 9 degrees Celsius. Spring cold stays with us through the first half of the week before things warm up, but we are looking at a heavy round of snow overnight. It will start to snow in the capital and Chungcheong-do provinces tonight, spreading nationwide overnight. The capital region could see 3 to 10 centimeters of snowfall, leading to morning chaos tomorrow. So please be sure to check the forecast and stay safe.
That's all we have for our morning edition of Arirang News. We'll be back with more stories making the headlines at 5 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stookie plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stookie that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
Capturing your day starts at New Day at Arirang.
A global conversation through the unique lens of millennials and Gen Z's. News Generation.
From politics to culture, delivering news from home and abroad. The Daily Report. A profound analysis of Korea by members of the media. Press Perspective.
A distinct perspective and a broader view. News Center.
A compelling discussion spotlighting domestic and international affairs within the frame.
Opening new vistas through a window of truth, connecting Korea and the world. Your pick, Arirang News.
We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insight, new style, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, March 17th here in Seoul. I'm Song Yujin, and thanks for starting off your week with News Generation. Joining us today is Ki Kim.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yes.
And Grace Park.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of those in their 20s and 30s. As many of our viewers may know, we start every week by exploring topics that directly impact the younger generation. And one issue that is consistently grabbing attention is employment. And earlier this year on News Gen, we discussed how job-seeking trends among young people are shifting. So previously, many were willing to remain unemployed until they found a job that truly aligned with their interests and expectations. But now with the economic downturn and fewer job openings, we're seeing a growing number of young job seekers take any opportunity they can find. And even after securing a job, many worry about how long they'll be able to keep it, a concern that's commonly known as job insecurity. So starting off, can you relate to these concerns as someone who is working right now?
Yes, but being employed for me is a relatively new term in my dictionary because I've been freelancing my entire career. I never had what they call a proper job. So of course, I'm concerned about my next move, literally how I would make a living every second. Being a freelancer might sound fancy. It sounds like I get to choose what I want whenever I want, but it's another term for work slave, because you do have to do whenever there's a chance. So I've been mostly engaged in the field of entertainment and education. Both are fiercely competitive, and it's constantly a changing industry, so you never know when you lose the job. And you have to constantly be moving to catch up the trend, learn new things, and so on. Also, there's fear about what I'm going to do, let's say when I turn 50, because life expectancy in these occupations and these fields is pretty short. So that's why I try to run my own company that's somewhat relevant to my career, and also can last longer, something that can revolve longer and a bit more stable. But given my sort of a workaholic personality, I don't think I'd be quitting working till I get buried 6 feet under.
So you are feeling a sense of job insecurity, but you are navigating through the way so that you can create the most stable environment that you can make as possible,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, then what about you, Grace?
Yeah, you know, I try not to think about work so much, but I end up thinking about work all the time because naturally that's how I make a living. These days, now that the life expectancy is increasing, I think about what I would do once I reach age 60 and it's time for me to retire. I feel like honestly 60 is still so young these days, and just looking at my parents who are in their 60s and 70s, I still feel like they're younger than I would have thought the 60s and 70s would have been like maybe 10 or 20 years ago.
They don't really seem old.
Yeah, they don't seem
right? They're
like
very young.
grandmas and grandpas like I used to think that 60s and 70s would look like. So, you know, I'm realizing that people are still actively living out their lives well beyond the traditional working age, which is posing lots of changes in the labor force dynamics. And a part of me thinks that the retirement age will end up being extended just because of population aging. But at the same time, we do need more opportunities for the younger generation too, so it is a complicated issue. And you know, I'm also seeing the real effects of artificial intelligence taking over our jobs. And since I do a lot of writing and sometimes translating for my work, it's kind of scary how well AI is able to do those tasks in such a short period of time. So of course AI is making our lives easier, but at the same time, I'm concerned about the AI takeover in terms of jobs.
Right, so the poor economic climate as well as the rapid advancement of technology kind of makes us feel that our job security is being threatened, right? So we're now going to take a closer look at actual numbers. So I want to ask you, Ki, do statistics support that these growing concerns about employment and job security are valid?
Well, the statistics are now not necessarily supported for those young generations. If you take a screen right now, involuntary unemployed people have surpassed 1.37 million last year. And if you take a look at the screen. Surveying employment trend last year conducted by Statistics Korea shows basically 4 out of 10 retirees were in involuntary unemployment status, and this is about increase of 100,000 year-on-year, resulting from an unwanted retirement plan owing to shutting down the business, layoffs, sluggish business, and more. And another survey showed that the reasons for feeling job insecurity for those who are currently employed were inflation, economic downturn, poor company performance, frequent resignation of fellow employees, getting old, and current employment can't easily be replaceable with someone else. In particular, women had greater job insecurity than men, and non-regular workers, of course, were higher than regular workers.
I see. So Key kind of gave us a big snapshot of how much people are feeling insecure about their jobs here in Korea. But Grace, I want to specifically ask you how this is impacting the younger generation.
Yeah, it seems like the bigger issue is that the younger generation is facing a difficult job market than ever before. According to the January 2025 employment trends by Statistics Korea, youth employment in particular saw the steepest decline. The number of employed individuals aged 15 to 29 dropped by 218,000 from a year earlier, marking the largest decrease since January 2021. We also saw growing unemployment among those with high levels of education, with around half of PhD holders under the age of 30 without jobs. And such trends can be attributed to economic uncertainty and a shift towards companies hiring more experienced workers who can perform work tasks as soon as they're hired, since companies are also struggling amid the economic downturn.
No wonder these young workers are getting worried even more as time goes on. But this is not just an issue that is unique to Korea, because the United States is another country where many young workers fear job instability. So Key, please walk us through what's happening there as well.
Well, in the United States, according to a recent survey by the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, about 1/3 of the United States workers are concerned about being fired by their employers. Not surprising when you actually see the Musk's action in Trump's administration. In particular, MZ generation's concern about unemployment were the highest in the past 2 years, and the percentage of respondents aged from 18 to 35 who said they were worried about making a living for the next 6 months increased from 36% last year to 40% this year. And young people are worried about not only dismissals from their work, but also their livelihoods. And many of them are started looking for part-time jobs. And even the bank said that retirees started to withdraw some money as they're going through the financial pressures.
Definitely. And you think that we saw these concerns grow even further since U.S. President Donald Trump started his second term in office, right, Grace?
Yeah, some industry insiders are saying that President Donald Trump's tariffs are creating more uncertainties, not only in the global economy, but also within the United States, which affects the labor market and young job seekers there. Also, the Trump administration announced that it is cutting federal jobs. According to Reuters, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs is planning to cut around 82,000 workers to return to the agency staffing levels in 2019, which was just under 400,000. Furthermore, in the U.S., there's a lot more freedom in terms of changing careers and more opportunities to earn higher salaries. But at the same time, this also means that competition is fierce and that being laid off is a lot easier. Labor laws aren't as strict as they are here in Korea, so it's not uncommon for workers in the U.S. to walk into work one day, get a phone call saying that they're dismissed from their positions and that today is their last day of work.
And President Trump, I want to point out that he mentioned that there may be some pain in the short run, but this is all for making the American economy great again. So we'll have to see how these policies will play out. So we're now going to take the time to listen to our viewers. We also asked them if they feel job insecurity and whether they are preparing a plan B in case they face unexpected layoffs. And here's what 3 of our viewers shared. Our first comment for this Monday is by Alan QW5IM. With the rise of generative AI in the tech sector, job uncertainty is definitely increasing. Benny D97 says, I experienced job instability in my previous work because there were problems between clients. I was already prepared for uncertainty and had a plan for my next steps. Our final comment for this Monday is by DSG1010. Companies have long preferred hiring contract or part-time workers instead of permanent employees to reduce costs. Even though I have a job now, I don't feel very secure, so I invest that I always look for new opportunities. So based on the comments from our viewers, we can see that job uncertainty is definitely lingering among young people around the world. So as we just touched on the situation in the United States, after the break, we'll connect with an American Gen Z to hear her thoughts.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Welcome back. Joining us this Monday is Erin Tiedman, an American Gen Z. She joins us from New York. Welcome back to the show, Erin.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Erin, we would first like to ask you the most basic question. Are you currently employed? And if so, do you feel a sense of job insecurity too?
Yes, I am currently employed, but my position is currently contract-based, and I do feel a high level of job insecurity, I would say. I'm working in an office job that is in an industry that's actually not related to what I went to school for, which is quite common here, I would say. And I'm currently looking for work in the industry I studied. However, that industry is international development, and with the current administration here in the US, that has been completely overturned, I would say, and upended in the past couple of months. So there's a high level of job insecurity in that sector, along with a lot of government positions. And there are also other factors at play here, such as the current state of the economy and the rise of AI. So I would say that all of that kind of adds to this feeling of insecurity, no matter what sector you work in.
Thank you, Erin, for sharing your insights and your stories. So from your perspective, I guess you sort of have mentioned, but is job security a growing concern among your generation in the United States?
Yeah, I would definitely say job insecurity is a big issue here. I find that entry-level and early career positions are incredibly competitive. Many of these positions have a very low pay and there's limited benefits. And such as my position, a lot of them are contract-based to kind of save companies money. I would say also the economic fluctuations here, budget cuts, organizations are constantly also shifting priorities, which also adds to job uncertainty. And I have a lot of friends who are working in the States and they're around my age and they have either been laid off in the past couple of years or demoted just due to budget cuts and shifting priorities, like I mentioned. So yeah, it's been a big issue here. And to make matters worse, I also think that the job search here in the States has been incredibly frustrating for so many young people. The process is heavily automated and there's no guarantee that your resume will even be seen by a person. You know, AI has been a huge factor in the job search. And so it's definitely been, I think, a rising concern of young people here.
Then, Erin, what do you think are some effective ways to manage or reduce this sort of job-related anxiety?
To reduce anxiety, I think many people have been trying to save money for an emergency fund in case they are laid off. That's something that I'm currently trying to do. But of course, because cost of living is so high and constantly rising, I think that's very difficult to do, especially if you are working a low-paying entry-level job. I think also it's important to kind of remain flexible and continue to train and learn new skills in the event that you maybe are laid off or have to kind of shift to a different sector. I also have some friends who work side jobs, kind of a side hustle. So they have this extra stream of income to relieve some stress and kind of ease some of that uncertainty that they might have. And then, of course, also just trying to work on your own mental health and go to therapy and I've recently been trying to understand that there are some things that I can't control and to kind of focus on the things that I can control. Yeah.
So very good advice. Erin, I want to ask you one more thing. You mentioned how some of your friends are trying to hone in new skills and also that they are having side jobs. Is this something that you are also doing, or are they some solutions that you are willing to try out?
It's definitely something I've been considering trying out. You know, right now, I'm currently volunteering to kind of boost my resume. So I've been volunteering with a professor that I went to school with and doing research on the side. So that is not really a stream of income, but it is something that I can kind of add to my toolbox of things. Yeah.
All right, Erin Heatman, an American Gen Z, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, so looking ahead, I want to ask you, what kind of social safety nets or measures do you think will help alleviate this growing job insecurity, especially shared among our generation?
Well, I honestly believe we need to change our perception on the job. You know, getting into a big name course would be great. But also there are other jobs available. Job markets are very much polarized as well nowadays. People flocking for the big names, whereas the small and mid-sized companies find it hard to find the right employees. The government is supporting these mid-sized companies, yet if you take a look at the management side, it's quite doubtful if those policies or measurements that the government has taken are sustainable. Also, there's a question about non-regular workers as well. In many occasions, the work they have done as non-regular workers or as a freelancer are not being recognized as what they call official career, though there are still work experiences. So, and if you take a look at it for the long run, our economy has to be stabilized.
Right.
There are so many factors nowadays that threatens our economy, both domestically and internationally. So we need to calm down, straighten down the economy, and we might have somewhat steady job markets afterward.
Right, because everything starts from a very solid foundation, right?
Exactly.
And Ki, I want to ask you, you mentioned how most people still, they prefer big corporations, but we still have a lot of great small and mid-sized corporations here in Korea and in other parts of the world. What do you think could be the perks of working at a small or mid-sized corporation?
I mean, I've been, well, one of the things that my company does is consulting, right? And I've consulted the big corporates and the small corporates, I mean, the small and mid-sized companies. Actually, working with a small and mid-sized company creates some kind of warmth, and also sometimes they have a more stable conditions, whereas big corporates is very competitive, right? And also, while you are working at mid-sized companies, you can also think of stepping up. You know, I'm not saying that the companies has a different size of company, it matters, but also working in a mid-sized company can definitely give you more experience. And also, if you work as a manager level, for example, in the mid-sized companies, then that will give you some more necessary tools when you move into a different maybe say bigger companies. So definitely working mid-sized companies sometimes quite helpful. It can be quite helpful.
So the employees can work together, grow together with the company as well.
Exactly.
And what is your piece of advice, Grace?
You know, it's a difficult issue, and there's definitely a strong responsibility on policymakers to establish more initiatives that are focused on creating more regular, high-quality jobs for the younger generation. They're facing both a harsh labor market and economic situation. So, yeah, and I also want to encourage young job seekers to continue seeking out all kinds of opportunities and build experience so that when the right opportunity comes, you're well equipped to start working right away. And we're learning that more and more companies are looking for experienced workers who can get started working right away. And one piece of practical advice I can share for job seekers here in Korea is that the 2025 Global Talent Fair is going to be held on May 19th through the 20th at COEX, which is located in southern Seoul.
Right.
And the event is designed to support young job seekers to find quality jobs here in Korea and abroad as well as to introduce local job opportunities for foreign students that are studying in Korea. So definitely plan to check that out.
Definitely, you should mark your calendar. So this event is open for all Koreans and also international job seekers.
Exactly, yeah. So they're going to have a bunch of seminars on the job market, on the interview process. I think a lot of the foreign companies that are invested in Korea are going to be there, the HR department. So it's a really good opportunity to meet like the people that are actually going to be hiring.
Right. So. Sounds like an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, and that's all we have for NewsGen today, but we will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Special thanks to Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Grace Park.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching, and we'll be waiting for you tomorrow morning here at the same time. We are
News Generation.
플라스틱 사실 편리하잖아요. 저조차도 활동을 하고 있지만 플라스틱을 사용할 정도로 생활에 많이 있다고 생각을 하는데요. 플라스틱을 대체할 수 있는 걸 계속해서 찾고 플라스틱이 아닌 다른 것을 사용하는 게 일상의 습관이 될 수 있도록 하는 것이 좀 중요하다고 생각을 해서 참새클럽 캠페인을 중점으로 활동하고 있습니다. 저희는 HDP랑 PP라는 두 가지 재질의 플라스틱을 모으고 있습니다. 보통 음식류에 사용되기 때문에 배달용기나 이런 곳에서 많이 볼 수 있고, 그리고 두 번째로는 저희가 업사이클 가공을 할 때 가장 유독물질이 덜 나오는 물질이기 때문입니다. 플라스틱을 많이 모으고 많이 제작하는 것이 목적이 아니다 보니까 저희는 시민분들한테 플라스틱 기부받고 리워드를 드리는 게 아니라 모아주신 플라스틱이 이렇게 재활용됐다는 걸 알리기 위해서 하는